Hey everyone, Golden Ninja 3000 here again. I'm back with another Disney Plus series review for you guys. I know I haven't been doing my weekly episodes, but they're just a lot of work, especially, with school and a job and this channel to run. Weekly is just too much for shows that I'm not super passionate about, like WandaVision and I guess Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I might go back to weekly for Hawkeye, but for now, here is my overall What If series review. I'm really glad I didn't do individual episodes for this because I think it would have been like a huge waste of time. So, starting out with episode one, what if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? I loved that idea, but I thought that the execution was really, really poor. I thought it was the weakest Disney Plus premiere so far. The plot was boring because it was too similar to the first Avenger, just with a more competent captain. Like, Peggy's much better than Steve in certain respects, which makes sense because she was trained as an agent, and honestly, she should have been given the serum in the first place. But the pacing was super rushed. I felt like I was watching the entire episode at 2 times speed, especially the dialogue was really, really choppy and fast. I thought the character development was astonishingly stupid. It's like they just relied on you remembering that Steve and Peggy wanted to dance from the first Avenger, and they just shoehorned that in there to like try to give you those like aw sweet moments, even though they weren't earned, and it was just kind of annoying to me. I loved how brutal Peggy's fighting style was, though. I absolutely loved the way that she just used her shield to like beat the crap out of everybody. I really, really like that. I really like Captain Carter. I just don't know how much I like her in animation, so I really hope that she is going to be in live action in Multiverse of Madness or Captain America 4 or something, because I just really need to see that character. Overall, I'd rate the episode a 5 out of 10. As for the Lego side, you guys know I hate the Hydra Stomper set. I think it looks terrible, doesn't look anything like the show, and the stealth suit Peggy, we'll talk about her more in the context of the finale, but it's inaccurate. However, the collectible minifigure series Peggy is fantastic. That is a great figure, and I really, really love it. One of my favorites in the series. Then, as for episode 2, What If T'Challa Became a Star Lord? This was one of my favorites. It was a really, really nice final performance for Chadwick Boseman. I mean, he is in other episodes, but this was his last, like, kind of solo focus. And he did such a good job. He was one of the best voice actors here by far. I loved seeing the effect that T'Challa had on the galaxy instead of Peter Quill. I loved Heist Nebula. I really liked that little flirtatious relationship that she had with T'Challa. It was great to see Thanos like in that context, and then just other characters like Korath. Right? It was just really really fun, and I liked it a lot. I also thought it was really nice to see the Black Order active in 2014. Things like that. I think What If has done a really good job of like tying things together in the MCU that felt kind of like retconny, and the Black Order is kind of like that because they grew up with Gamora and Nebula, yet they were only like referenced in Guardians 1. So it was really nice to see them active in that time period. It felt like a complete movie to me. It was still a little bit rushed. I think all of these episodes are because they're so short, but I thought it told a solid, complete story in a much better way than episode 1 did. However, little annoying inconsistencies started to pop up here, which I'll talk about more later. But they didn't like ruin my enjoyment of the episode. I thought the cliffhanger was cool. Overall, I'd give the episode like a 9 out of 10. And in terms of Lego, we got a great T'Challa Star-Lord minifigure, but in the future, if, Lego ever wants to revisit this episode, I'd love to see a Heist Nebula and like a jacked up Collector minifigure. And speaking of the Collector, he was a good villain. I forgot to talk about him. And it was really nice to see, all the little cameos in his collection. For episode 3, What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes? I thought it had one of the most interesting premises. I really liked that kind of murder mystery idea, and it was kind of fun to see all the Avengers die, even though it was also sad. Natasha got a really good amount of screen time. I was really happy to see that. And again, going back to the whole retconny thing, it was great to see Incredible Hulk characters actually like woven back into the larger MCU. It was just really nice to see that all of those things happened around the same time, and to get like Mark Ruffalo's Bruce Banner with like Betty Ross. So I really liked that part. I thought that there was a really good twist, because this seems like to be kind of overlooked, but the point is that Hope was a shield agent, but she went on the Odessa mission that Natasha mentioned in Winter Soldier, where she came into contact with the Winter Soldier and she survived. So I thought it's really interesting that Hope went on that mission instead and was presumably killed by the Winter Soldier. And Yellow Jacket Hank Pym was a pretty good villain. I really liked how unhinged he was. It really showed us that Hank like what road Hank could have gone down. And I did think that this episode had one of the best cliffhangers because even though everyone was dead, like unfreezing Captain America and calling back Captain Marvel was just a really, really interesting premise. As for Lego sets, this is like the episode where I think it's the least necessary. Like, what would you even make? This is just a very like grounded phase one like death story. But a Yellow Jacket Hank Pym minifigure would be cool if they ever wanted to do that. And I forgot to mention, I give the episode a 7 out of 10. Episode 4 is my favorite by far. What if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? First of all, that's a banger title. Like, I mean, it's really long and complicated, but oh my god. It's such a good, like, idea. Like, it's such an interesting situation to put him in. Because having Christine be in the car that night, like, oh my god, that just blows my mind. Because I really like Rachel McAdams as an actress. And Christine's such like a nothing love interest, especially because she's an ex. Like she's already an ex by the time the movie starts, but she deserves so much more. So I'm really happy that she's going to be in Multiverse of Madness, and this episode made her a much better character because even though she's not like an active player, even though she's just like dying like 50 times in an episode, Stephen's love for her really comes through, and it makes everything so much more interesting than like she was in Doctor Strange, which of course, again, because she was already an ex there. I loved the horror vibes in this episode, especially with like Strange Supreme absorbing all of those demons and everything. I really hope that that's the kind of stuff we see in Multiverse of Madness, that those are the vibes that we get, because I don't want to be like scared out of my mind because I don't love horror, but I'd like some really creepy like imagery like that. Like he seemed very demonic and I liked that. I thought Obeng was interesting as well because the writer said they weren't allowed to introduce new characters, yet he seems very clearly like a new character because even if he is Cagliostro himself, which is what it seems like, that's still a new character. So I'd kind of like to know more about him and maybe see him in live action eventually. And Strange Supreme versus Normal Strange was a great fight, really awesome. I especially loved like the bit with the two cloaks. And Strange Supreme's whole character design is beautiful. Like he looks so like deliciously evil. Like I love his like pointed cape. I love his like gaunt face. It's really, really nice. And I also thought that him observing the Watcher and talking to him was like mind blowing, and it was just so interesting because it was only 4 episodes in, but still like breaking the rules like that was really cool. And then obviously it was a very tragic ending with him alone in a dead universe. I'd give that episode a 10 out of 10. I loved it that much. However, Lego really dropped the ball here because I have no idea how we didn't get a Strange Supreme minifigure. I think that he is like the singular most like important character across like the entire show besides the Watcher. And so to not get a minifigure of him in the minifigure series is just a shame. Now, on to episode 5, What If Zombies? You guys know, I hate zombies, but this wasn't terrible. It was a really good mix of scary and funny. I really loved Peter's little, like, intro video in the beginning. That was hilarious. However, it was definitely rushed. Like I said, all of these episodes are rushed, but I did feel it a little bit more here. It was still like a solid, complete story. I really liked it. Like, I don't want a whole zombie movie, so this was like good enough for me. And I did rewatch it, which I was surprised about because I thought I wouldn't. I didn't rewatch all of these episodes. And I liked the Central Avengers team. I loved Hope having a larger role here, and finally seeing her grow giant was so cool. Okoye, more time with Okoye is never a bad thing. The Spider-Man actor I thought was really good, and we got our first mention of Uncle Ben. That was great. But it just felt really weird that they didn't care at all about any of their friends dying. I know that they've been in a zombie apocalypse for 2 weeks, and I'm sure they're hardened by that, but it was really weird to me that Bucky literally like cut Cap in half and then joked about him dying when he is on a train headed to get the cure that can fix all of his friends. Like, why would you kill your best friend in the world and joke about it when you're on your way to get something that might fix them and bring them back to you? That was really irritating to me. It's like the same thing with Sharon, like the fact that Hope like blew up Sharon by flying into her mouth, and then she was like, ew, like I've got Sharon on me. Like, I thought that those jokes were really stupid because I'm like, you're killing your friends. I get that you're in an apocalypse, but you could save them. And like, you might have to kill them, but you're not tortured over that decision. You just think it's funny. Like, I didn't like that. I thought that there was an amazing twist though with the cure. Like, having it be zombie Wanda, like be the main villain, was incredible. I was not expecting her to have such a large role. I think Vision, like experimenting on people and like cutting people's limbs off to feed his like zombie bride, that was so messed up and disturbing. I know it's straight out of the comics when it was like zombie Hank Pym doing that to T'Challa, but I really liked it, but it was also really like gross and creepy. I did like though that it shows that Wanda and Vision will do anything for each other in any universe. So in our universe, she'll enslave a town and, you know, like make Westview and do the whole WandaVision thing, and in another universe he'll feed his friends to her to keep her alive. Like that's super messed up, but I really, really liked it because you guys know Wanda's my favorite character. I also thought the cliffhanger with like Thanos with like 5 of the 6 Infinity Stones was crazy. Oh, and side note, going back to Vision, it's really funny that he also dies in every single universe because he did die again here. I have to say though, some of the voice acting is a lot better than others. Like Bucky, Sebastian Stan's not a good voice actor. Bucky sounds bored in everything he does in this show, which I don't think is intentional. Overall, I'd give it like an 8 out of 10, maybe down to like a 7 out of 10, but we'll keep it at an 8 because of Scarlet Witch. As for Lego, I am really annoyed that minifigures were made for this, honestly, because the zombies episode was interesting. I get that a lot of people were excited about it, but Zombie Captain America and Zombie Hunter Spider-Man are two of like the weakest CMF figures in my opinion, because one of them is just a really good normal Spider-Man with a cloak of levitation, and then the other one is Zombie Captain America, who got like 10 seconds of screen time. I really wish that Lego hadn't invested the budget into making those figures, because we could have gotten much more important consequential things from What If instead of characters that didn't matter in the end and were barely in the show to begin with. And that goes for all merchandise. That's not just for Lego. I also don't know why Zombie Captain America was pushed so hard in action figures and everything too, especially because characters like Zombie Iron Man got more screen time than him. Also, I'm sorry I'm spending so long on like the individual episodes, but I am trying to give my complete thoughts. So moving on to 6, What If Killmonger Saved Tony Stark? It was an okay premise, but I thought the episode was really boring. Killmonger felt like the exact same character. There was no difference to his personality or his goal, even though he had a different plan in this show. And it honestly made me mad. It made me mad to see him killing everyone and like getting everything he wanted, and not in a good way. Like I wasn't like, wow, Killmonger's such a good villain like I was in Black Panther 1. I was like, wow, this is stupid. Why are they making me watch this? Because I don't like this character and I don't want to see more of him. Especially not when he's doing stuff like killing T'Challa in cold blood. And which is even more distasteful after like Chadwick Boseman's death to me. He wasn't as good of a villain as he was in Black Panther. It just made me want to watch the first Black Panther again. And it was nice to return to Wakanda, but I just thought that the plot wasn't great in general, and it did feel like a waste of time, and it honestly just felt like irritating. I'd give it a 6 out of 10 overall. In terms of Lego, King Killmonger would be a cool minifigure just because I want a new hair mold for Killmonger, because we never got one. But I'm glad he wasn't made because it would have been a waste of a slot. And on the other hand, Queen General Ramonda would be great because that was a very nice design for her character, and I'd love to see her like go to battle in that outfit in Black Panther 2. Episode 7, What If Thor Was an Only Child, was a lot of fun, especially after how depressing the last couple of episodes were. Party Thor was a really fun character, and I loved seeing Frost Giant Loki. I also loved seeing all of the cameos. Those were really, really awesome. I wasn't expecting all of them, but like, you know, Grandmaster, Topaz, Korg, Nebula, Mantis, I'm just going off of memory, but it was just, oh, Howard the Duck, of course. It was just really fun. It was also nice to see Maria Hill again, and in a more like leadership capacity. I really want her to come back in stuff like Secret Invasion. However, I didn't like Jane at all in this episode. It didn't feel like MCU Jane Foster, which like I know is the point of What If, but I mean, it didn't feel like her in the sense that it didn't sound like Natalie Portman. It didn't look like her. It wasn't consistent with her character in Thor 1 at all. Like, the Jane that we met in Thor 1 wouldn't stop caring about the potential end of the world because she met a hot Norse god. So that did kind of bother me. But Captain Marvel coming in was absolutely incredible. I loved seeing her. Having her fight Thor, that was such a good fight. Like, that was like a 10 out of 10 fight. I need to see it in live action because it was just beautiful. It was hilarious that Frigga was like, you know, like not like the enemy at the end, but, you know, like it was her arrival that caused Thor to get his act together. I really liked that. And it was nice to see these characters back in the MCU. It was nice to see Frigga still like be important. It was really nice to see like, what Captain Marvel was doing in the meantime, that she would have come back for something like this. So those are the parts that I really like about What If. The animation was also incredible for Carol's powers. I'd give this one an 8 out of 10. I actually really liked it. As for Lego, would have been nice to get a Party Thor minifigure, but I don't think it's necessary and not really worth the slot in the CMF series that like it would have taken up, so I'm okay without getting him. Moving on to episode 8, What If Ultron Won? This is what I've been wanting since 2015. I love Ultron. He's one of my favorite MCU villains. So to see what would happen if he had succeeded in downloading himself into Vision's body is just incredible. It was really cool that Black Widow and Hawkeye were the only survivors, but I just didn't understand why they had a will to live. I don't understand why they were trying to defeat Ultron. I mean, the entire world is dead. And they didn't know this, but the entire universe is dead too. So why do you want to defeat him? What are you going to gain? Do you want to live out your lives just like alone as the last remnants of humanity? Like, honestly, if I was in that situation, I'd just give up. That being said, I thought that the Zola twist was really clever, and I think that hopefully confirms that he's alive in the main MCU in that Siberia bunker from Civil War. I loved seeing Zola back. I've wanted him back, like in the movies for a while, so that was really nice to see. It was also nice to see Clint die for once, like no offense to him, but I mean, like I did tweet after I saw this on like my Marvel fan account. I was like, oh look, the right person died this time. Which I mean, it's a joke, but yeah, it was nice to see him sacrifice himself for Natasha. The Ultron voice actor, who's the same guy that plays Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame and What If, I thought he was pretty bad here. He was okay at imitating the original voice actor, James Spader, but he sounded terrible because there was no like post-production work. He didn't have that robotic sound. He didn't have the personality. He just mimicked the voice, but it was like a huge letdown for me. If there was like any character that could have reprised their role, I would have wanted it to be James Spader because Ultron is just not the same without him. That being said, he was still a pretty good villain. He had a great design. Him versus the Watcher was an incredible fight. I loved like the glass shattering effect as they burst through the multiverse. There were a lot of cool cameos. Like there were a couple Star Wars planets in there I noticed people talking about. And then there was like that President Steve Rogers. And Ultron got a little bit more personality towards the end. Like, he had, like, a decent monologue. I liked his jokes more towards the end when he was like, oh, it's pretty creepy that you've just been watching everybody. But it just wasn't the same. He felt like a very half-baked and, like, rushed villain in a sense. But I still liked him in this episode. I thought that he was still good, and I thought that it was a really good setup for the finale, even though it was a bit rushed. So I'd give this episode a 7 or an 8 out of 10 in the end. As for Lego, they needed to make Infinity Ultron again. That should have been in the CMF series. If I could have too many figures, Doctor Strange Supreme and Infinity Ultron should have taken the places of Zombie Hunter Spidey and Zombie Captain America in the minifigure series. Now, as for the season finale, What If the Watcher broke his oath? It squandered all of the good setup for a weak, rushed, and boring ending. I really didn't like this episode. This is my least favorite Disney Plus episode to date, I think, from Marvel. And I think it cements What If as having the worst premiere and the worst finale of all the Disney Plus shows. And yeah, I'll go ahead and include stuff like The Mandalorian in there because holy cow was I disappointed. I don't think I've ever been this disappointed by something that's come from Marvel, like, ever. Like, seeing Gamora in this episode when we didn't get her get her solo episode because it was pushed to season 2 because they couldn't finish it in time, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Delay the whole show because it was asinine to have her be part of the team and to like introduce us to her like we know her when we haven't met her before. So that was really dumb, and it spoiled the ending of that episode with her and like Sakari and Tony getting like the Infinity Gauntlet, and the Watcher called her a survivor of Sakaar and destroyer of Thanos. Like, why would you ruin that ending of that episode? Like, I don't know. It was just really freaking annoying to me. That being said, in that montage, it was nice to see the results of the other cliffhangers. It was nice to revisit them and get a little bit of resolution there. But there was no time to develop the team. Like, that's the thing. These episodes are so short, and I was hoping the finale would be longer because the team was just thrown together. They didn't have any kind of, like, relationships. They looked good together, and they fought well together, but they don't have any personality. They don't have any character, and like that's what we love about the Avengers. So I really didn't like that. The only relationship I cared about was Peggy and Natasha, And that's just because we saw Winter Soldier Peggy. Also, Winter Soldier Peggy, side note, is awesome. But I don't like her hair in the stealth suit. I think it looks like, again, it doesn't make her look like, it looks like someone else. It doesn't look like Haley Atwell. But on to like the relationships part, more time should have been spent on Killmonger and T'Challa and just on every member of the team, but especially Killmonger and T'Challa. I mean, he killed his cousin like literally like weeks or months ago in his universe, and now he's on a team with him and they only like talk to each other once. So that's really stupid. Ultron was horrible in this episode. Again, voice acting was terrible. He was way too weak. He was super easily fooled. How can Doctor Strange Supreme, I know that he trained for years. I know that he absorbed all sorts of demonic creatures, but how can he withstand the full might of like 6 Infinity Stones? It was really really dumb. It was dumb, and it was rushed, and it was just weak, and it was just everything was like half baked. Like that's the best way to describe What If to me, is it's just like all half baked. Attacking Ultron with the zombies was smart. I like shuddered when like that portal opened and all the zombies came through. I really loved seeing Zombie Wanda again. That was nice. But back to the stupid part, the Infinity Crusher, their entire plan, that was the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I'm sorry. Like I forgot what their plan was. The finale was really boring to me. So I was getting like I've never been that bored watching anything from Marvel ever. So I forgot why they were even trying to get the Soul Stone away from Ultron. And then the fact that it wouldn't work because every universe's stones are unique, and so Gamora's Infinity Crusher was designed to crush her universe's stone, that is also the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Because yes, fine, that works. Each universe is supposed to have its own Infinity Stones that aren't supposed to work in other universes. So then why can Ultron use his stones normally? You can't say that the stones are unique and that they work differently, but then they don't. Like, there was the argument that he's just using the stones from his universe to power his suits, which is why they work. Like, okay, I can get behind that. But he literally uses the time stone individually to rewind time. Or sorry, never mind. That was in his universe. So sorry, that's not a plot hole, because he was using the stone to turn back time in his own universe. But then why does Doctor Strange's stone work in that same universe? That's the stuff that doesn't make sense. You can't have two time stones being used in the same way in one universe when one of them comes from another universe. So that was really stupid and annoying to me. It honestly feels like the writers didn't know this stuff. Like, you are writing this show, you shouldn't be breaking like Marvel canon so much. Because I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going on this rant. So going off on another tangent, there are too many inconsistencies in this show. The Tesseract made Peggy time travel somehow. When the Collector wore Hela's helmet, he could suddenly like shoot swords out of his body like her. That doesn't make any sense. Hela's powers aren't tied to her helmet. That was only for Thor because Odin put an enchantment on his hammer. Then Loki was abandoned because he was a runt. Like, that was the entire point. Laufey didn't want him because he was like a small, like, human-sized baby. So then why was he a giant in the Party Thor episode? He never would have been abandoned in the first place if he was like the size that like his father wanted him to be. And then also Infinity Ultron in his own episode, all of the cameos that we saw there, which were cool by the way, that doesn't make any sense because he goes to the Sovereign in 2018 and yet he meets the Guardians from 2014. You can see that he's using the Time Stone, but they don't make that clear. And so like all of these little inconsistencies are beyond frustrating because there shouldn't be so many little plot holes in a series like this. Getting back to the season finale, I did like the final fight with Ultron. Um, it was too rushed and it was too easy, but like Peggy and Natasha tag teaming him with their shields, that was incredible. I loved that so much. The ending, like Zola was good. I loved that Black Widow got to, like fire the decisive shot. I loved how much screen time and attention Black Widow got, especially after how she was treated in Endgame. But then the ultimate ending was really, really stupid. Like, why is Killmonger so important in the end? I don't understand why he took the stones. He's like, we can fix everything in our universes. You are the problem with your universe. You are the only one causing problems in your universe. So what do you need to fix? That frustrated me beyond belief. I understand that Zola would have betrayed them, so it was smart to trap him in a pocket dimension, but I don't understand why Killmonger like tried turning on the team like that. So it also irritated me that the episode was called What If the Watcher Broke His Oath, and he didn't break it enough. He didn't do anything. He just like stood there in the background and then came in at the end to lock them up in that little crystal ball. After the setup and after his really good fight with Ultron in episode 8, he was so useless here. And like, yeah, he did break his oath, but he did not break it enough. Like, it should have been a lot more impressive, like, honestly. I can't believe, like, I have problems with WandaVision episode 9 because it didn't pay off all the setup from that show, but I have never seen an episode like completely drop the ball as hard as this one did. The ultimate resolution was okay. I liked Natasha going to like the world where all the Avengers had been murdered and helping Captain America and Captain Marvel defeat Loki. But in my opinion, it would have been even better if they had just dumped her off in the main MCU and we could have Natasha back. Of course, then you'd have to get Scarlett Johansson back, and there's a whole lawsuit situation there. But I mean, would have been really nice if she had come back to the main MCU instead. Lastly, the mid-credit scene was very weak. It was like, I get that there's more Captain Carter in season 2, but I didn't need that end credit scene. I thought like there wasn't even a moment to breathe at the reveal that there was someone inside the Hydra Stomper, and it seems like it'll just be Winter Soldier Steve, which is not cool enough for me. I'm sorry. I really think that it should have been a live-action tease for Multiverse of Madness with Hayley Atwell as Captain Carter. Overall, I give the finale a 4 out of 10, and in terms of LEGO, we got a Stealth Peggy minifigure that was bad because the hair is still inaccurate to what she has in the show. LEGO just needs to make a new hair mold that's like parted in the middle. And a post-apocalyptic Natasha minifigure would have been really nice, but it's not really needed. Overall, What If just kind of feels like it was a waste of 9 weeks. I feel like I've been ranting a lot, but it's really irritating to me because individual episodes were good, but the series as a whole was really weak because it was so determined to not be an anthology series. Like, yes, most of the episodes stand alone, but they still built it up to like this big finale that was just bad because we didn't know that team. We don't care about them. Even though we got individual stories for them, getting rushed individual episodes just to have a rushed bad final like act where you don't even talk to each other, it's not good enough. Like it wasn't good enough. This show should have just been an anthology series and it shouldn't have crossed over like that. And if it was going to cross over, then they should have had fewer episodes with more time to develop the characters. I thought the voice acting was like really hit and miss here. Characters that I think stood out as being like particularly bad. I think Peggy at times, Hayley Atwell didn't do a great job, but then at other times she was really good. Bucky was bad, like I said earlier. I think the Pepper voice actress was pretty bad. Natalie Portman, again, wasn't great for Jane. The Ultron voice actor, didn't like him. And there are others. A lot of them just sounded like bored and like they didn't want to be there. But I thought Benedict Cumberbatch did a really good job. I thought that Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston did really well. I think those two characters, like those three characters, Doctor Strange, Thor, and Loki, they all felt exactly like their movie versions. I also really liked the animation. I thought the animation style was gorgeous. I'm not a huge fan of like, adult, like teen animation. But I really liked the style that they chose here. In the end, I just hope that season 2 is better and more interesting. They said it's going to be more character focused than Save the World focused, which I really hope is the case because they need to be longer. 30 minutes is just too short of an amount of time to tell self-contained stories that are this big. So I really hope that I already know that season 2 is 9 episodes. So I really hope that that they actually are not going to do Save the World things in every single episode, because if they're 30 minutes and just focused on the characters, they'll be good. So that's how I feel about What If. Overall, I'd give the series like a 5 out of 10 rating. On my overall MCU ranking, it is like down in the muck. It's down there with Iron Man 2 and The Incredible Hulk and like the Thor movies, because I think this was like a big swing and a miss overall. And I've been a What If defender for several weeks. I have been like, trying to convince people not to give up on the show, but episode 9 broke me. Like, I'm done. It's just, I now agree with everyone else. It's just not what it could have been and not what it should have been. So that's it for today. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and check out my website, goldenninja3000.com, and I'll see you guys in more videos soon. Bye for now.